Welcome to Taking Stock. I'm Amanda Lang. Coming up on the show, it's been a tough stretch for job seekers, but are we hitting bottom? And the future of electric vehicles in Canada is very much up for debate. What's at stake? Plus, moving fast on big projects might mean different things to different people. That's all ahead. First, for the week that was in business, it's time for the briefs. A deadline for new tariffs has been pushed to August 1st by U.S. President Trump as the July 9th date for renegotiated deals comes and goes. Trump sent letters to 14 countries warning of new tariffs coming, including a 25 to 40% tax on products from Japan and South Korea. Canada is still negotiating a trade agreement with the U.S., while high tariffs remain in place for steel and aluminum. Separately, Trump suggested new tariffs of 50% could be applied to copper, which sent copper prices in the U.S. to record highs. Copper is a key industrial metal for electronics, wiring, and power generation, and is an essential component of new technologies, including solar and EVs. The U.S. imports 17% of its copper from Canada.
We're going to be announcing pharmaceuticals, chips, and various couple of other things, big ones. We did steel, as you know, they're 50%. We did aluminum, 50%. Lumber just came out.
Why don't you announce copper?
And we did cars. And now, today we're doing copper.
The federal government is looking to downsize in a big way. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne has asked departments to find billions of cuts in order to reduce program spending by 7.5% next year, 2.5% the following, and 5% in fiscal 28-29, for a total of 15%. It's expected that the first wave of cuts could show up in the federal budget this fall. Affordability continues to improve in Canada's rental market, with rents either falling or growing at dramatically slower rates across Canada's largest cities. CMHC reported that the completion of new rentals remains above the 10-year historical average, mostly driven by government initiatives. Canada's Competition Bureau is investigating Amazon in Canada to determine if the online retailer abuses its dominance by enforcing prices for sellers. The focus is on the Amazon Marketplace fair pricing policy. It penalizes sellers if they list an item at a price that's higher than is listed elsewhere, including on the product's own site. And those are your business briefs. It's been a tough stretch for job seekers, especially younger ones looking for summer or first jobs. But could the worst be over soon? Claire Fan is a senior economist at RBC. Claire, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Amanda.
It's definitely been hard, and we've seen, obviously, the unemployment data, the unemployment rate ticking up. First time, we know young job seekers are having a hard time. Is there any reason to think we might be seeing the bottom of this trend, that things might get better, say, in the next few months?
Yes, so we are cautiously hopeful. We're optimistic about sort of the future of the Canadian labor market and think that the bottom may be close to us. But like you said, obviously there has been tremendous softening that we've seen already this year. I mean, we've seen significant job losses. It's not just younger workers that are entering the labor market. We're seeing employed workers are now losing their jobs, right? But the weakness is so far relatively contained, and that's one thing we've been highlighted, which is devastating, obviously, for the manufacturing sector that's particularly exposed to a lot of the international trade headwinds. But both geographically and from an industrial or sectorial perspective, the bleed has been relatively contained.
And just on that front, the job losses we've seen, as you say, I mean, we've seen plant closures in manufacturing, lines that aren't going to be built or that are being delayed. Is a lot of what we've seen in the kind of those big numbers related to trade? So if we get resolution, maybe we get some of those jobs back, in fact.
Yeah, 100%. I think when it comes to sort of the impact of, broadly the trade war and this having on the Canadian economy is really twofold. So number one, we have the most direct impact directly towards, and this is essentially where the job losses we've seen are most acute. So manufacturing, since January, this industry or the sector has lost over 55,000 jobs, which is the equivalent of 5% of the workforce. And we've seen, the unemployment rate is unsurprising that it's ticked significantly significantly higher than the national average in Southern Ontario, for example, Peterborough, Windsor, as well as Toronto as well, and Quebec, where, the manufacturing accounts for a larger share of the workforce, essentially. But yeah, essentially, I think moving forward, and this is something that we've been highlighting as well, which it comes off as a surprise to a lot of people, Canada is actually relatively well positioned when it comes to competition in the U.S. import market. And the reason for that is a lot of the goods, we counted 91% of Canadian goods, were still accessing the U.S. market duties free because of CUSMA exemptions.
And that, which of course makes getting our trade deal renegotiated and firmly in place all more important. In terms of the people that have lost jobs, I mean, often, Clara, when we see big job losses, we worry about recession following because, of course, that impacts people's ability to spend, especially discretionary spending. We haven't really seen that. We've seen obviously a slowdown. Do you expect to see kind of a delayed reaction to some of those job losses, and that will show up in the economy?
Yeah, so that's sort of the key question that we're getting at here, which is, okay, we're seeing job losses at places where spots that we think we're expecting them to show up. To what extent is this going to spread or bleed into some of the other sectors that are, you think might be more insulated from a lot of the trade headwinds? And so far, we're seeing very limited evidence that it's spreading, which is also the other reason that we think the bottom may be near.
And of course, if we do see that spread, that can have a real ripple effect. I guess it comes down to how quickly we get resolution, right? And we can get things sort of back to normal. What about supports for the people that have lost their jobs? Are there enough supports in place for, say, auto workers that it insulates the economy a little bit?
Yeah, I think broadly, again, if you were to look at specifics of the counter-tariffs and the exemptions that are associated, a lot of the exemptions, especially with the auto sector, was really put forward with the aim to keep manufacturing in Canada, to make sure that the plants, continue to hire workers. So from that regard, I would say from the counter-tariffs perspective, the government has put in a lot of consideration just to make sure that, we're not doing this at the cost of Canadian producers.
So good to have you for this, Claire. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Claire Fan is a senior economist at RBC. Coming up, electric vehicles are still a big chunk of new car sales, but can we hit ambitious targets? Stay with us.